Frederick Hart statues in front of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial were controversial because Maya Lin's conception of this monument is so astonishingly powerful. And people were worried that Hart's sculpture in some ways violated this very powerful and uniquely postmodern, really, artistic statement. But it came out of a real need by the people that visited there. Maya Lin spoke of the dead. No one was speaking to the living.
He wanted to get me interested in the battle over the Vietnam Memorial. And thereafter I met him, but I was first just found it so unusual that there was a sculptor left who had any talent.
Well, there was the whole experience of the building the memorial was a reflection of the unfinished business of the Vietnam War, the intense, bitter debate over what it meant. And building a memorial is making a statement, a final statement about what it meant. So there were a lot of people who had very, very intense feelings about what that statement should be. And I would say in a general way that people who saw the veterans as victims, who saw the whole thing as a senseless, meaningless tragedy, were those who were the most moved by the wall and most embraced it. And those who, particularly among veterans, who were proud of the fact that they had served their country. They felt, as well as their fathers and forefathers had served, and were angry that there was no reference to that honor, to that duty, to that courage in the wall concept, only a listing of the dead. They were the ones who embraced the idea of adding a statue and adding a flag. And you can imagine the enormous, bitter confrontations that took place during that. And I was just sort of a little peapod on the sea of all that stormy sea. And of course I was vilified by those who were opposed to a statue because they were doing everything they could to prevent it from becoming a reality. So it was for me getting thrown into a lion's den of the likes I had never known before.
And I remember talking with Rick when he had been asked to do it about whether or not he was even going to accept the commission. One of the reasons he didn't want to do it was he didn't want to draw a mustache on somebody else's picture. And those are the words he used when we were talking about it.
When I went down in 1982 to listen to the hearings, it was the real beginning of the culture war. The veterans and conservative groups in general supported Rick Hart's work, and all the art establishment pretty much went nuts in their fight for Maya Lin's wall. Rick himself had no objection to Maya Lin's wall, but he thought that art should communicate to people, and that art had isolated itself too much from the public, and that Maya Lin's wall, however good it was part of that postmodern abstract thinking. And that's how I met him. I introduced myself to him. He was just a kid.
All of the contestants had to submit a plan in which there would be the names of all the dead, 57,000 people we're talking about. That was a condition of the memorial. And Rick's had at one end a fallen soldier with a comrade bending over him and looking up for help. And at the other end was a soldier starting to run towards the wounded soldier. At the time I said his was the only representational, realistic one. I never realized I was wrong. Maya Lin's wall was highly realistic. It was a tombstone.
The commission, after Rick finally did agree to accept it, really consumed him. And so he interviewed several thousand, he told me, vets, and I remember looking at the three faces, and we were talking about the face of the black man, and I said, oh my gosh, I said, Rick, that is so powerful. And he said, it is, but it's not right. And I said, why? He said, because it's angry, and I don't want it to be angry. I want it to be anguished. I came back about 2 months later, and I looked at the face. He got what he wanted.
I think that he was given a nearly impossible commission. How do you create a work which speaks immediately to the living in the presence of this great original artistic monument in a way that amplifies it and does not diminish it? And I think he succeeded.
Once I had done the statue and it had been put in place, it was quiet because the statue was not what its critics said it was going to be. It was not a machoistic John Wayne thing that would have been inappropriate in that setting. It was something that really did end up being a very significant part of the healing process, because it was put to rest by that equipoise between the statue and the wall, to put to rest the conflict over the memorial.
I remember the unveiling, and I'll bet there were 100,000 vets there. When President Reagan spoke, it was one of the first times, I believe, where people began to respect and understand the horror of what the people who fought there and survived had gone through, and they began to look at it in a new way. As awesome as it is to stand and look at the Iwo Jima Memorial, Frederick Hart wanted the scale of the Vietnam soldiers to be where you could encounter it almost eyeball to eyeball. It's slightly larger than life size. They had wanted to put it high on a pedestal. He didn't want it that way.
There were some very, very important things to me that I wanted to convey, and I wanted to be in permanent conveyance, so to speak, to future generations about the experience of the Vietnam veteran. First off, the youth. These were 18 and 19-year-olds for the most part. The average KIA killed in action in Vietnam was 19 years old, whereas in the Second World War, I believe it was 25 or 26, and even older in the Civil War, because all of the kids who went into combat were just that. They were young draftees for the most part, or volunteers.
Was 18?
I was 19.
20.
17.
25.
I had my 18th birthday there.
March 17th, I hit
I
mine.
had my 21st there. I even voted over there. I won't tell you for who.
I wanted to underscore their fragility in that they were usually in small units of way out for long periods of time in very, very terrifying situations where they were essentially under attack 24 hours a day. And they were very small groups who were very intensely interdependent and created intense bonds of love and mutual care.
It was 5 days before we evacuated him.
Yeah, I got shot and it was 5 days.
When he
before
got shot.
We got originally medevaced.
Took us 2 days to get up there.
We had men that died up there because we couldn't get them medevacs
Right.
out. We lost over 2/3 of the company.
In 5 days.
If he killed one, then I asked him, I said, is everything all right? Because it was so dark you can't see.
They were going to write us off and
Yeah.
let us die up there. It's a true story.
Yeah. I never thought I'd get out of there alive. Vietnamese Army up there. North of Da
Went up
Nang.
there with 3 corpsmen, come back
Yeah.
with 1.
I'm the only survivor up there. Yeah. Still haunts me today. It's still rough. He
He said, "I'm
disobeyed
going-"
orders. He said he's going to go get them.
He says, I'm going to get those
He's going to go
guys.
get those guys.
We walked off the hill with 38,
38?
38.
and out of the 38, we had 17 walking wounded.
Yeah.
So when we got to the bottom of the hill and it was safe to evacuate them, we evacuated those 17 men.
But we had guys dying to say, you know, to drag dead people back.
Right.
You know, that was really something. So when the Marines say they take care of their people, that's exactly
We
what
didn't
they
leave
did up
anybody
there.
behind.
Yeah, nobody was left behind.
I wanted to portray that shadow of mortality that crosses their faces through their experience of that combat situation, that 1,000-yard stare, that terrible nihilistic wound that was put upon them. One thing that was said that always touched me was one Marine wrote me and said he had the sense that they were looking for their own names on the wall.
It's something of wonder, a beauty, real great for the people that served there.
He got it right.
Oh, he got it right. That's very good.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
He did it right. It's perfect.
Yep.